talking about an ancient and somewhat revolutionary practice, spiritually revolutionary. It's called prayer. So most everybody in the room here, comes out of a Judeo-Christian background, so they think about the Old Testament and stuff like that. That's why I said ancient. But through the many centuries, the notion of prayer becomes jaded, and a common ideology about it sort of evolves. A common, basically highly unenlightened thought of prayer evolves. Like if you're driving your car off the cliff, oh God. Then there's like instant prayer. But short of crisis, we're going about our business. We're just doing our daily chores and our loves and our sorrows and our various deeds. That's what we're engaged in. That's our life process. But if you get next to a practitioner of prayer that has a little bit of deeper insight, it's far more interesting, far more revolutionary, far more dynamic process. So with all phenomena in the realm of matter, in the realm of manifestation, the three gunas are at play. Gunas mean qualities: tamaguna, rajaguna, satyaguna. Meaning, tama is inertia, low. Raja is mixed, passionate, middle, and satyaguna is pure. So with prayer, the gunas are at play. The average person is practicing a basically unenlightened form of prayer, and basically you can call the prayer gimme, gimme, gimme. Give me this, give me that. That's the common prayer. Give me the wife, give me the house, give me the job, give me the health, give me this, give me that. Is the general prayer. Occasionally, with good fortune, you pray for somebody else. But you're bouncing between gimme, gimme, gimme for myself, and occasionally, help Johnny get a job, like that. But even sometimes that's not really a deep, honest prayer. It's sort of like, help Johnny get a job so he doesn't give me a headache. So you have to really be clear. How deep is your prayer? Are you really praying for them, or you're praying for your life circumstance to get a little bit better? The sattvic prayer is when you're truly praying for the welfare of others, just so that they're happy, so that they're peaceful, so that they can fulfill their life, the best in their life can be fulfilled. That's the prayer that the saints practice. It's an altruistic prayer. So, in this topic that we're calling a yogic prayer is always referring to the highest form of prayer, an altruistic methodology. Prayer is a sadhana, meaning a spiritual practice. In general, we say we as regular human beings, we just say prayer, when there's a personal need. So it's sporadic. But in the yogic practice of prayer, it's a constant, persistent effort that is part of your lifestyle. You get up and bathe. You get up and go to work. The yogi, we get up and we pray. It's just like brushing your teeth or going to work or taking a shower. It's not an other. It's not something we do on Sundays. It's something that's just part of your life. Prayer has to be analyzed. You could say, why can you go from one end of the planet to the other end of the planet, regardless of race, regardless of culture? You find prayer. Why is that? You have all kinds of boundaries, rivers and oceans and mountains blocking all these different communities. But you go there and you find people praying. So you have to realize, and just like air is universal on the planet, prayer is universal on the planet. Why? Why? The languages aren't the same. The cultures are not the same. The diets aren't the same. But prayer. The one constant that you have between all the regions, regardless of boundaries, is that every human being is solarly endowed, meaning they all have a soul. So, soul is a universal divine reality. We all have language, but the languages may be different. Soul is not different. Soul is all cut from one parchment, one reality. And it's always seeking its expression. See, it's seeking to manifest and fulfill its nature. That's why we have evolution. The soul is behind evolution. Otherwise, we'd all be banging rocks, trying to make sparks for fire still. But these divine sparks make the human strive, always trying to improve our condition, always to try to gain greater control over our environment, always trying to create greater awareness of our environment. That's evolution. That's why you have more vision, understanding of the world than a fish. They're at one level of evolution, you're at another level of evolution. The greater the level of evolution, the greater the ability to manipulate nature, the greater the ability to understand nature. Not only external nature, but self-nature. So we're evolutionary creatures, and part of in the fundamental spiritual DNA of the human condition is prayer. So we sort of have to chisel away at the old understanding of prayer as gimme, 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 to an evolutionary expression of your beingness. It's an evolutionary expression. We think of ourselves as primarily human, with the many, many limitations. But that's not our final evolutionary expression. See? That's maybe where we are now. But that's not what we've been endowed with as beings. We're still on our evolutionary journey. You'll find prayer as a universal event, because prayer is one of the energies of the soul constantly pressing into our subconscious and then into our conscious to get us to have a different experience of the world. Where the process of prayer becomes a means of experience and a lens of perception. So prayer becomes a means of experience and a process or a lens of perception. You see through the eyes of prayer. generally as human beings, our perception is helter-skelter. Every individual is having radically different perception of their environment and radically different perception of their personal experience. So it's a constant. Human has a constantly vacillating system of perception. It's constantly vacillating. That's why we have to strive so hard to communicate with each other. Let me give you another example of universal communication. If you smile in America and you go to the most outer regions of Mongolia and smile, they understand. If you open your mouth to talk, no understanding. But if you smile, everybody, no matter where you are, in Eskimo land or South America, Russia, they understand. Why? Why is that? Again, it's a universal expression. That universal expression is solarly endowed. Otherwise, it'd be very, very grim. Very, very grim. So why is that joy that can be universally expressed universal everywhere? Again, behind it is the soul. Behind it is a spark of the soul. You can also go farther and say that a smile is a very subtle universal prayer. It's joy-based. Anyone who looks at it feels a little bit better. They may have been feeling lousy, but they say, they're smiling. What a joyful smile. For that moment, I feel a little bit better. It's physical prayer. It's physical prayer. See? Why? It's solarly based. When something is solarly based, it'll have a universal and uplifting manifestation. See? It'll have a universal and uplifting manifestation. It'll be a joy, a fulfillment, a wellness. All of those are manifestations of prayer done well, or prayer done skillfully, or prayer done with insight. Okay? There are some hard truths that we have to understand and analyze. Well, normally we grow up and say, I'm a human being, my name is Sally, my name is Bobby. You go about your life. But if you're on the yogic journey, entering the yogic process, you have to try to analyze what is the human condition. Because if you don't analyze what is the human condition, you might not take the next step and say, why should I bother praying? Why bother? So if you and there'll be, and actually, if anyone has anything to offer, just raise your hand. In your analysis, because it's always valuable to myself and to all in the room. So you ask yourself, what is the human condition? What is it? Is it pleasant? Is it pleasant? Unpleasant? Is it this? Is it that? I'm interested to hear what you have to say, if you have something to say, and if not, then I'll tell you something about what the yogis have to say about what the human condition is, which is a little bit shocking, a little unnerving. It rattles your sensibilities a little bit. Any thoughts before I continue? Okay, Ram. There's a deafening silence. It's okay. No one wants to take a chance. Later on, it'll be like a rodeo. Everyone will take a chance. It's okay. There's no wrong answer. There's just different gradations of understanding. There's no wrong answers. That should make you feel easier. The yogis say that the human being or the human condition is a compilation, meaning a bunch of things put together. It's a human condition is a compilation of dreams, of sorrows, and of notions. That could really shake you up if you think about it. The human condition is a compilation of dreams, sorrows, and notions. So if you stop for a minute and reflect on your life, is there anything that you can't put into those three categories in terms of your existence? That'd be interesting to hear.
What does notions mean, Hari?
It means random ideas.
Random ideas.
A notion is not validated. It's not a validated idea. It's not proven. It's just an idea. Maybe this, maybe that, maybe so, maybe not so. See? It's unvalidated. See? So.
What about moments of presence?
Hmm?
Moments of presence.
Oh, that's a very sophisticated statement. Moments.
I didn't hear the question.
She said, "What about moments of presence?" That is a moment of, and there's a lot of people saying presence or flow or divine insight. That is a momentary period where a person has an intuitional insight into the nature of what they are, what they truly are. So it's a glimmer of the soul breaking through. It's breaking through all of our nonsense to give us a moment's insight into what you are and what the experience is, as opposed to our persistent and very dense dream of what the world and our world experience is. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a moment when the solar light breaks through. You know, so a lot of you'll read in the Christian mystics. That will be discussed quite a bit. The problem is that it's just a moment, and then it's gone, and you don't know how to get it back. And where was it? And then as the years go by, was it really real? It was wonderful, but it was really real because you don't see any support system. The process of prayer is a process of cultivating a stable channel for the soul to manifest in the world. It's a process of cultivating a stable channel for the soul to manifest in the world. So it's pretty important when you start thinking about that, as opposed to a momentary glimmer, a momentary insight, a momentary revelry, and then gone. But even those little momentary reveries, people write whole books on. I know there's something divine. I don't know where it is anymore. Well, I stumbled into it once. So this process of prayer is this evolutionary process and revolutionary process that gives you a means of stable divine experience. As with all practices, the gunas are at play. There's beginning practice, middle practice, and more refined practice. Nima, did I put my mala down out there? I had a very special mala to show you. Oh, it's in my pocket. I have it. Sorry. So prayer has always three expressions, as everything is in nature. Your beginning practice is unenlightened, crude. Later it's mixed. Further on it's more refined. One can say that prayer is sort of a enlightened form of character development. An enlightened form of character development. Why would you say that? Well, if you look at the saints throughout the world, throughout the religions, throughout the cultures, those are the souls that have the greatest development. Also the greatest character development. And they're all praying. So how did the saint become a saint? Why in every culture does a saint practice persistent prayer? It wasn't just, oh, I'll do it because it feels good. It's a method of their evolution. It's a method to develop a perception. Oh, it's like the music has arisen. See, the music comes on when you talk about the saints. You notice there was an ascending scale. So we have to realize that the saints are our evolutionary models, our evolutionary templates. It's where we all are going to go. One way or the other, at some time, whether one life or 100,000 lives, you are going to move through progressive development and acquire saintly qualities or become a saint. Saint is the being whose solar energy is more present, less suppressed. Human beings, very suppressed. Saints, the energy is more liberated, so it's flowing through their actions, flowing through their psyche. In the process of prayer, particularly in the yogic methodology, you learn the habit of persistent prayer because our minds are basically uncultured. It's just full of tons of stuff, often unexamined stuff. As where prayer is a very particular energy, and in that process of persistent prayer, the stuff of the mind, the stuff of the emotions, the stuff of the body itself goes through a type of alchemy where it takes on the nature of prayer. So we're not talking about the Tamaguna prayer, which is gimme, gimme, gimme. We're talking about the Satyaguna prayer, which is a prayer that intrinsically wants the welfare of all to be lifted. May all be well. May all prosper. May all know their eternal self. May all know the divine. That's a sattvic prayer. So it is by the persistence of having the notion, getting the habit of wishing all well through the vehicle of prayer, does our heart and our mind start to change. See? Because normally we're just living, we want to eat, we want to drink, we want to have a stable life. But we're not so much thinking about everybody else. Maybe your family members here and there, occasionally your colleagues here and there. But as a basic functional being, you're not instinctually just wanting the bounty of all. We're just, it's not good, it's not bad. It's just we're a bit self-obsessed, self-possessed. So our psyche revolves around ourselves, basically. It's not good, it's not bad, but it's not where we're going. It's not our full evolutionary expression. So I wrote down some notes, which now I have to put glasses on to see, because this is as a yogic sadhana, you have to find means of getting the habit. Basically, we live and die by our habits. Whatever our habits are, that's our basic expression in life. So the yogis are here to help encourage us to develop the habit of prayer. It's one of the habits in the character of the divine condition. And you can say, why, or, what are some of the benefits of prayer? And then you have to look at your own nature and your own character. You can say one of the benefits of prayer is empathy. Who could not use a little bit more empathy in life? Empathy is the intimate understanding of the welfare of another person. You empathize. You can feel their condition. So it's one of the highest forms of communication, when you can actually feel the welfare of another person. You have the deepest sympathy, the deepest understanding of how they're doing. If you don't know how they're doing, how can you help? You can't. You can't. It's a very crude action. But with empathy, you really understand. So let me show you an example of a high form of empathetic expression. A mother has a nursing baby. The baby starts to cry. Immediately, by the nature of the cry itself, the mother understands, oh, the baby is hungry. Not the baby needs changing. The baby will cry in a different way if the baby needs to be changed. She said, oh, immediately she'll know, oh, the baby is hungry. And immediately her breast will bring milk. Immediately. That's empathy. See? She didn't say, oh, she didn't have to analyze it. She said, oh, well, the nature of that, maybe this, and, well, no. She knew right away baby's hungry. And her whole visceral expression was to bring forth milk. She didn't think, okay, mammary gland, bring milk. No. Immediately, the milk started to flow. That's empathy. See, there's an immediate understanding and an immediate action. So with prayer, you develop an empathy so that there's immediate understanding. And the next step is, how can I help? See? How can I heal? How can I lift? See? Immediate, just like the breast milk coming immediately. She didn't say, oh, how can I help? Okay, mammy or Dan, give milk. No, it was immediate. It was spontaneous. It was an intuitive action by the body to respond in a positive way, to serve a need. So with this empathy, we have an immediate communication. I understand the nature of your heart. Immediately. And then how can I help? See? There's immediately an intuitive understanding of what to do. See? So that's a high state to develop greater and greater and greater empathy. See? You can say the word compassion is developed through prayer. To look out into the world and see the nature of the world and see the dysfunction in the world. And again to say, how can I help? How can I help? The nature of yogic prayer, again, heightens your insight. The reason a lot of times people can just go blindly through the world without helping is because they're not consciously seeing. Their insight is rather dull, rather self-centric. But in the process of persistent prayer, your insight into the world, into the hows and whys of what's going on in your environment increases. As your insight gets deeper, clearer, your means of skillful action becomes more precise. You know just the right thing to say. You know just the right action to take. You know just the right circumstance to construct, so that a healing, which is the process of moving towards wholeness, can occur. See, this is great stuff. You know, healing is, this whole prayer is really revolutionary process. It's really becoming your truest self, your deepest self. It's grand. You know, a person who is truly studying prayer is becoming a magnified being, not just common Susie, common Tommy, you know, common Hari. No, you're creating an avenue for the light of soul to manifest. You're becoming a universal smile. See? A universal balm, B-A-L-M. Often man is B-A-M. Problematic. Mischief. But in this prayer, you're becoming a healing agent. In this sadhana, you have to find a place to start. Where do you start? How do you learn this stuff? Really, with the sadhana of prayer, meaning the spiritual practice of prayer, the science of it, you have to start with a process of profound self-analysis. Otherwise, you may not be so motivated. But in an analysis of oneself, you can use a common term that's makes it easy to remember. You can say, like, emptying the tub. You know, we all take a bath. You have to empty the tub. In that emptying of a tub, which means all the stuff that you've been carrying along, there's a life review, a reflection that we have to go through. Now, this is not a critical process. This is a process of personal self-honesty. Because if you don't know where you're standing, how can you know where you're going? You have to know what you're equipped with, what your bags, your psychic bags are packed with. So from a yogic perspective, the word kindness is always central to our process. The word kindness. So we have to say what has been drawing us back from expressing the nature of the soul. It's not kindness, but it's unkindness. See? When haven't we been kind? Our solar nature is supreme kindness, but our unenlightened nature is different gradations of unkindness. So we have to look into our personal history, and usually it's good to write it down so that we're very clear, so that we don't delude ourselves, so that we don't enter the process of self-delusion and self-lying. And say, you know, where have I practiced unkindness physically? You know, where have I practiced unkindness emotionally? You know, where have I practiced unkindness mentally? Because if you don't ask the question, you don't really know. If you don't really know, how can you heal yourself? It's like having a quiet cancer that you're unaware of. Well, can you heal it? No, it's only when you're aware of the quiet uncancers can you make a proper application. But if you don't know, you don't know. So if you don't ask, you definitely don't know. You know, maybe you're 3 years old, you punch Johnny in the nose. Note it down. Note it down. It's okay. But you have to know, because now you have that reflection. Oh, what motivated me to punch Johnny in the nose? So you can analyze. Oh, maybe I had a sense of fear. See, whatever. You know, maybe I felt uneasy around him. Whatever. But you have to take a look at it to say, why did I do that action? You know, or a physical action is to take something that doesn't belong to you. So I stole something. Why did I steal that? Again, was I looking for stability? Maybe I stole it because I was cold and needed the blanket. You know, or maybe I stole it because I wanted revenge to get back at this person. See? Or maybe I stole it because I wanted a sense of adventure. It was exciting. See? All of those three reasons can be why someone took something that didn't belong to them. They maybe felt it would give them more stability. Maybe they did it for adventure. Maybe they did it for revenge. But you have to look at it. You have to analyze why you did it. Why that you took that misdeed. See, it's just a misdeed. And then, so you can say, oh, I have issues with stability. Oh, I have issues with revenge. Oh, I have issues with inappropriate adventure. See? These all can be healed. But if you don't realize you have issues with, personal stability, so you're running around grabbing stuff because you don't feel secure, instead of grabbing stuff, why don't you deal with the issue of security? See? But if you don't do the analysis, you don't know. You don't know why you're running around taking stuff, or an inappropriate sense of adventure, So that's that life review. All of these things lead to a self-healing, of which prayer will be a primary method of that self-healing. But sometimes you have let's pray for Johnny. Oh, let's have a healing circle. Let's do a prayer. Now you haven't healed yourself. So you're this pile of cancerous nonsense, rubbish. And then you think you're going to sit there and pray for all these other people and be so proud in the community as if you have any validity or vitality to pray for somebody else and have some kind of positive effect when you yourself are a swamp. See? Prayer as a sadhana. Clean your own house first. Clean your own house first. Then, when you offer prayers for the welfare of others, you're not sending along your own psychic. It's really a garbage vibration, basically. I'm just being frank. You're just shifting your trash and trying to look good at it. It's a sad delusion. If you want to offer gold. But don't think your lead consciousness can offer gold. I don't think so. If you want to offer gold, make your consciousness golden. Then you've got something to offer. Not your muddy lead life. And then you say, oh, I'll look good in the community, so I'll pray for other people. Give me a break. It's not, you're woefully insufficient. Woefully insufficient. So that life analysis is necessary. So you have to see what's there. And then once you see, okay, these are the various issues I have, so I'm reflecting on any form of unkindness physically, emotionally, mentally, and I'm writing it all down so I can understand where I am. And then I say, okay, why? What was the motivation that allowed me to have this unskillful action, this unskillful unkindness? So we start to gather a collection of actions on various levels, and then say, okay, now what can I do about it? The very first thing is we see the various thorns that we picked up along the way, we could say, gee, you know, I didn't give to the body of kindness in the world through these actions. I feel a little bit bad about that. So there's a sense of contrition, like, that really wasn't right. I wouldn't have liked it if that came my way. You know, if someone was unkind to me physically or emotionally or mentally. So that wasn't nice. And in your heart you feel like, you know, I don't want to duplicate that. I don't want to duplicate that. It wasn't right. So that honesty starts to come. And then after a little bit of contrition, when you realize, you know, feeding Johnny the mud pie really wasn't that nice. It was funny, but it wasn't nice. You know? You realize, because you have to understand, the bread you feed another is the bread you must consume. When you turn it around onto yourself and look at your, you know, whether those actions were kind or unkind, you say, gee, I really wouldn't like that to be done to me emotionally or mentally or physically. So then because when you turn it back on yourself, then you can develop some contrition. Because you know, I really wouldn't have liked that if it happened to me. If it's just going out, you sort of can live with it. But when you turn it back on yourself, say, gee, that wouldn't be too nice to have happen. Then you can develop some empathy, some contrition. And when I'm saying contrition, it's not like the old Christian, let me get out the strap and beat myself. It's not that. It's not the self-flagellation and all that kind of nonsense. It's just realizing it wasn't kind. And I wouldn't like that to happen to me. That's all it is. And then the next step is a determination not to repeat that process. Say, you know what? I'm quitting that. You know, I don't want to put that out into the world. I'm through. So it's that kind of determination. So you're moving along. This is the nuts and bolts of making yourself fit for real prayer. You know, why is a saint a saint? The saint's done this stuff. See? Why is a regular human being, you know, throwing their prayer out in the universe still, at the end of the day, just a common human being? See? One has worked through the nuts and bolts of the process of self-purification so that it becomes a true means of solar expression. See? Not just some vain, you know, human egotistical, I'm throwing it in the world and I look good in the community and I'm good. Which is often what we do. We sit around with some people, we say some prayers, everybody sees us saying some prayers, you know, we look good and we go home. Unvital. You know, impure. So with that, you know, with that contrition and determination not to repeat it, because you realize it was an unhealthy, unkind, unwhole act. And basically, you want, in the process of prayer, you want wholeness for yourself and you want wholeness for everyone else. You have to understand, if you're living in a palace and around you there's a desert of starving people, how healthy can you really be? You're living in your own fortress universe. The real way is to make everybody around you whole, happy, and healthy. And then you're living in that community. See? And this is done through persistent prayer. A prayer, a true prayer, is the binding of an altruistic desire with the force of the divine kingdom, the force of heaven. It's not like a common human prayer, which is just sort of an egotistical desire and hoping for a Hail Mary pass from somewhere you don't know. But with real prayer, there's a real altruism that's being developed. And you know that there's a greater reality. And you're asking for those two conditions to come together, to work in communion, so that some action can be done in the world. The saints are doing this persistent prayer because their psyche is a reflection of the divine kingdom. As above, so below, is what's going on. So they see the divine motivation in the kingdom for wholeness, peace, harmony, love. And because they've purified their mind and heart, it's like a clean parchment that heaven scribes the desires of the kingdom upon. We desire healing, we desire wholeness, we desire love, we desire. So that becomes the prayer of the saints. True love for all humanity, true peace for all humanity, true healing for all humanity. They become a living verb in the world, a living expression of the kingdom. See? Often the kingdom, that God, that reality is sort of esoteric for most people. It's beyond, unknowable. But it's knowable through the saints. So if you want to know what's going on in the kingdom, look at the hearts of the saints. Look at the actions of the saints. You'll know the will of the kingdom through the saints' actions, through the saints' words. That's why everyone should study Scripture. Scripture of all the religions, any religions, they're all reflections. And you'll find prayer in all of them. You'll find the saints all praying, the prophets all praying. So you've sort of done that life reflection. You're trying to clean out the barn by saying, I feel sorry about this. I'm not going to do this again. And the errors, just look at them as, don't look at them as branded, in your being forever. It's better to look at them as an error, as a blemish. So every blemish can be removed. So you don't look at yourself as a eternally bad person, eternally damned person. This is nonsense. It was an error. Every knot that can be tied can be untied. Just understand that. Every knot that can be tied can be untied. So every blemish can be removed. See? That's part of your evolutionary process, is to remove the blemishes. See? So you start this process of prayer with the understanding that when you clean your own house, then you become a far more reflective surface or mirror of the will of God. You can say the heart of Christ, the mind of, the wisdom mind of Buddha, the love and wisdom of Krishna. You become a surface that can reflect that nature, that can manifest that nature. And the reason you can reflect that nature and manifest that nature is because it is inherently in you. It's just been covered up, left dormant, left no stable means of manifestation. But so you start to look at these saints and say, well, their saints are universal. They're everywhere, every culture, every religion. So something's going on. And I know consistently that all of these guys are praying, even though they haven't talked to one another. They're all doing the same thing. They say, okay, that's a heads up. I'm going to copy them. Whatever they're going to do, I'm going to try doing. So that becomes your experiment with your own life. And you say, okay, these are the evolutionary luminaries, and I'm just a common human being. But they were just a common human being at one time. They were just like me. They eat like me, they sleep like me, they've had families just like me, they've had troubles just like me. Okay, I'm going to make that effort and try to understand this prayer, understand this method, and see the events that occur when I approach this process. So again, now we go into more mechanics. important mechanics. You know, like without proper mechanics, your car doesn't move. So mechanics are important. So in this process of prayer and development of self-evolution, one of the tools of the trade, one of the tools is to have a mala or a rosary. See? And we should all try to make one. You know, you can go to the local bead stores and buy 109 beads. There'll be 108 in the loop, and then there'll be 109th on the as a root bead. That 109th bead represents the divine principle, or God consciousness, or the Guru principle, meaning the sanctified energy of the reality helping you out. See, so it's the Meru bead is the Alpha and Omega. You know, everything begins in God, everything ends in God. But this is the process of sanctification. You know, so they say the old lady's telling beads, but we call it in yoga doing japa. Japa means repetition. So you have to understand with every prayer, if you analyze a prayer, like in our churches often we've just learned we say a prayer, we do it in a rote manner, and we get out the door. But if we say, okay, these prayers came from saints, and saints have a particular psychology, and saints have a particular worldview, well, you should understand that by studying the prayers of saints, you have a means of seeing the world through their worldview, of understanding the world through their psychology. So we as common human beings, we have our own general psychology, which is a mishmash of what we've heard and what we've put together. But have we ever thought about how does a saint see the world? You know, what is their philosophical view when they look out into the world? And what is their analytical process when they try to understand the world? See, they have a psychology. They have a worldview. So by sort of dissecting, you know, find a favorite saint, that some saint, some holy soul that inspires you, and start doing a dissection of their prayers. You want to see how they think, how they view the world? Start a real dissection of their prayers. And then you get a mala and make a mala really pretty. You know, you really should have fun with this process. This is not a process of dry biscuits. You know, this is a process that you should enjoy. That's why I pulled out a really pretty mala today. You know, so you go to your local bead store and you get 109 beads, 108 for the journey, and the 109th bead is the Alpha Omega bead. We start unknowing with God, and we land up knowing with God. See, we're with God in both places, but one was unknowing, and the other is knowing. See, so it's like Alpha Omega. So you become like anything you repeat. Whatever you practice, that's what you become. You know, you start to curse a lot, that becomes part of your character. You start to pray a lot, that becomes part of your character. You become like what you practice. Whatever you do over and over and over, that becomes part of your disposition. That becomes part of your character. So, in the prayer process, it's not just to rattle off a prayer and say, I'm good to go, I'm out of here, which is what we do often, but to really ponder, really understand, what are they talking about? With your prayer, there should be a persistent brooding, a persistent mulling. What did he mean? And then every single word analyze. Every single word analyze. So that, and you have to remember, your understanding will be evolving. What you understood on day one is not what you're going to understand on day 108 or day 2000. You're constantly rendering it. down to its essential quality, its essential energy, its essential action in the world. And the thing is, so you have this mala, and it's often good to start out with a really, really simple prayer. Something super simple. Not big, complex, long, long prayer. Because you're adjusting your psyche. You're trying to have novel insights. You have to understand, the saints have a revolutionary consciousness. They're not stuck with just the common known, with very limited boundaries. Their consciousness has expanded to the infinite. They're embracing the kingdom of God. The whole reality they're embracing. So you have to understand, hidden in their prayers are those revelations. See, it's not stale and it's not limited. So you understand, you're entering a revolutionary process. You're entering a consciousness expanding process. But prior to this practice of prayer, we've got all these just common so-so habits. Habits of thinking, habits of feeling, habits of doing. So let's say a really simple prayer, may all be well. How often do we really think about that, may all be well? I mean, is it part of our disposition? May all be well? I mean, we sort of have that notion, may everybody will be okay, so they leave me alone. But do we have a real sense within our belly? God, I really wish, may all prosper, may all be well, may all have joy, may all have everything they need. Do we have that notion in our belly? See, so you have to ask, constantly thinking, what does that mean? What are the implications of everyone being well? We never sat down and put a lot of attention on it. We sort of have a general, visceral, okay, live and let live, But have we really taken our tremendous psychic and emotional and spiritual intellect and bore down on that idea of why do we want all be well? Do we really feel that in our hearts? Have we felt it in our bones? Meaning, have we taken action for that? See? So have we expressed that may all be well in our body, in our emotions, in our intellect? Or have we sort of vaguely said, may all be well? It's sort of like live and let live, which is generally what we are as human beings. Live and let live. Just leave me alone so I can get on with my business. If you look at a may all be well, you see a Jesus. If you want to see may all be well, you see a Gautama Buddha. May all be well, you see a Lord Krishna. May all be well, you see all the great saints and masters in history. So you have to realize, whoa, this is what those guys are saying. And me as like Joe common human being, I'm starting to utter this now. What does it mean to me? But first, just in a very visceral way, we take a beautiful mala that we've constructed and forget the intellectual part. Let's start with something physical. Just try to get it off our tongues. May all be well. May all be well. May all be well. In the beginning, when we're saying that, it's a whole lot like cardboard. Not a lot of vitality in cardboard. Not a lot of vitality. We're just saying it. But we got to get it. We got to get it out there. We got to get it out there into the universe. So we start off very, very dull because we don't really have a deep understanding. It hasn't really touched our heart. But if we start to just viscerally say it, may all be well, then more and more questions should come up in your mind as to what the heck does that really mean? Do I really want all to be well, or do I just want to be left alone? A lot of times we don't really want all to be well. We never really thought about it. We sort of more want it to be left alone and just to get along with our business. See, so a lot of times we never really had that altruistic motivation. We just have to be honest. Maybe we just never thought about it. We never thought about it, that may all be well as a reality. So if you never thought about it, you never really acted on it. You never really tried to create a bonding between your spirit and the greater spirit to have taken action in the world. See? You never really got to that threshold. It was sort of live and let live, let me get along. But now you have to start saying, may all be well. And you got to say it like 108 times. Jesus Christ. You know? And then the teacher says, you got to do that 108 times minimum, and you got to do it at least 40 days. In the beginning, it's like, oh my God, what is he asking me? Leave me alone. You know? Don't break my habits, you know. I'm good. You know. But now all of a sudden you have to say, may all be well, may all be well. And just out of boredom, you got to start thinking about it. You know, you do have an intellect, you do have a heart, and you know, may all be well, may all be well, may all be well. I'm not that parrot-like, I'm not that stupid. You know, okay, well, what does it mean? So, doing it 108 times out loud, because now you have to even hear yourself. You can't hide from yourself when you're saying it. You know. So eventually, you say, oh, for God's sakes, what does this mean?
You didn't say that part. You have to say this out loud. Too.
Yes, my dear. That's the beginning part. The beginning part. Because your heart is not yet activated. And your psyche is not yet activated. So it's like someone yelling in your ear, pay attention.
No, it's not a whisper. It's like a voice.
No, you're saying it out loud. You know, we are dense. You know, we are self-involved, dense creatures. And this is like breaking the mantle, you know. You got to break through this, the crust. You know, there's a lot of crust of unenlightened habit that we have to break through, you know. And then this, God darn, as long as we're saying it, you know, 108 times, 40 for 40 days, God, just not to be bored, I'm going to think about it. You know, what does it really mean? You know, it's got to break through all your habits of just self-consumption, just me. Because if you look at, just being honest, if you look at the ratio in your life of how much you think about yourself and how much you think about others, it's a pretty disproportionate ratio. You know, you're just being honest. You know, we are like the center of the universe. And then the world revolves around us. And now the yogis or the saints are saying, reverse that? It's like, are you kidding? Are you real? You know, me, the precious being, the wonder of life, I have to change the ratio of how much I contemplate my wondrous self? That's what we're thinking inside. We might not express it so poetically, but that's how we feel. You know, the jewel of creation, me. You know, and now I've got to turn it topsy-turvy and add equal value as if God gave equal endowment of wonder and beauty to other souls. That could be a novel thought for many people. That there's wonder and that each soul is precious. So now we have to break that habit and turn it around and start to realize, gee, may all be well. And then we have to analyze, well, what does may all be well? And we think physically, may all be well. Oh, now we're starting to understand. Maybe we get a little bit of compassion. Maybe not the world is so well. Maybe there's wars, maybe there's famine, maybe there's privation. Oh, I hear it on the news, but I don't really think about it. It's over there. It's not over here in my heart. It's over there. So we watch the news, it goes by, and all this war and famine is going on. But do we get too exercised by it? Think, oh, that's sad. Okay, what else is on? Seinfeld is on. Turn the channel. You know, movies on. But this makes us a little more sensitive. May all be well. May all be well. And then may all be well emotionally. Gee, how much emotional turbulence is there in the world? So you can't fix anything until you acknowledge it. You know, you can't fix anything until you become sensitive to it. See? And then with the psychic level, may all be well, may all be well. We all walk down the major streets and see people talking to themselves and yelling into the wind and having conversations with souls that are not there. We all see that kind of unwellness. But because of the habit of prayer is not there, we see it and go, too bad, and we walk on. Or let me walk over here and let them be over there. And we just walk on. So there's a disengagement. There's a disengagement with the sorrow of the world. See? There's a disengagement physically, there's a disengagement emotionally, there's a disengagement mentally. When you're saying may all be well, there's over time there becomes an engagement with people's welfare physically, emotionally, and mentally. Over time, through the process of prayer, you become a visceral, living channel of a universal energy. So that when you're standing before someone who's unwell, whether it's body or emotions or mind or a copulation, you can say a deep, heartfelt prayer, may all be well. And in that heartfelt prayer, you become vitalized with the potentiality, with the stream of energy from the kingdom, and it rushes out through you. You become a vessel. You become an instrument of that universal energy to help manifest in that soul, to help lift them out of their privation. See? As a human being, you say, I'll see you later, good luck. You're saying basically, good luck, leave me alone. But as a person who is engaging in the process of prayer, which means a process of liberation of some of the energy of the soul in union with the energy of the greater kingdom, you become a living agent, a living instrument. Think about the saints. Aren't they living agents of the kingdom? See? Aren't they endowed with the powers of the kingdom? If you look at the Jesus stories and all the healings that took place, where did that come from? It came from that empathetic heart and union with the kingdom. And it flowed through him. It didn't originate in him, but he had the right psychic condition so that it could flow through him. So when he prayed, it had potential. It manifests its energy in the world. So the blind could see and the lame could walk. See? You're no different than a Jesus. You're just an unenlightened Jesus, an unenlightened Buddha, an unenlightened Krishna. You're the same reality, just further down the evolutionary scale. How do you move up the evolutionary scale? By engaging the processes that liberate the energy of the soul. And one of those principal processes is prayer. It liberates the energy of the soul. It unites the energy of the soul with the energy of the kingdom. And then there's an action in the world. So even by saying a prayer, you're beginning to take the crude action of something positive in the world in a physical, visceral way. See? And then as you're going through the process of cleansing your heart, more and more of the divine current can flow through you. More and more of the divine current can be stimulated within you, see, to manifest in the world. So think about this. You all can manifest some gradation of creativity, some gradation of intellectual acuity. Isn't that an energy that you're putting into the world? Think of all the music that's created, art that's created, theater that's created, dance that's created, sports that are created. Aren't those forms of energy that are being manifest in the world with some outcome? There's no difference with prayer. Prayer is an art, but it's a sacred art. It's a sacred art. Just like painting is an art, dance is an art, theater is an art, music is an art. Those are all creative manifestations of energy. Prayer is an art. So can you be a Picasso or a Renoir of prayer? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. See? Is Renoir different than Picasso? Yes. Are they both great? Yes. Did they both have effect in the world? Yes. So the manifestation of the prayers that you make may be different than the manifestation of some other soul, but it all adds to the body of beauty, the body of creativity, the body of well-being in the world. See? So we acquire empathy, we acquire compassion, we acquire insight, and we acquire positive direct action in the world. So if you're a poor person economically and maybe you don't have the greatest intellect, you can feel impotent. But you do have the power of the soul, regardless of your condition. You could be a sick person lying in bed, soul still present. That means you've got a bank of power to work with, regardless of your condition. The question is, do you utilize that bank of energy? You utilize that bank of energy through prayer. So you could be a quadriplegic, lying in bed. But if you set your heart and mind to saying prayers, you know what? That person is healing the world. They are viscerally healing the world. They are making the condition of the world better, even though they don't have the use of their limbs. See? They can be far more vital than just common Joe walking down, going to work, coming home, going to work, coming home. See, they can acquire a spiritual liberation in a very desperate condition. See? So, but you have to utilize, you have to tap in to that divine power within and have it in communion with the higher reality, so you're not on an ego trip, see? And have a great effect in the world. But you have to start with the first crude, okay, may all be well, may all be well, may all be well, may all be well. You got to keep saying it until it sticks, until, hey, I really do want all to be well. Because before that, you really didn't. You never, it's not that you were bad, it's that you just didn't think about it. It just wasn't an issue. It's like, I want a car, I want a car, I want a car when you're a kid. Until you want a car and you get the car. See? You kept at it and you really wanted it. And then that action became a reality. So now it's like, may all be well, may all be well, may all be well. In the beginning, we're not that interested. If you say, you can have a car to a 6-year-old, it doesn't mean anything. You say that to a 17-year-old, boom, it means something. So in the beginning, we're like a 6-year-old, like, may all be well. It doesn't mean that much, may all be well. But as we keep saying it over time, and the years go by, by the time you turn 17, may all be well, you mean it. Just like, can I have the car? You mean it. It becomes real. Like, yes, may all be well. Or, yes, I want that car. So it becomes a true desire. So the welfare of others, through this constant remembrance, may all be well, may all be well, and then thinking about what that means. Over time, you start to say, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense, may all be well. Just on a logical, intellectual basis. If everybody's well, hey, I'm going to live in a great environment. I'm not going to be living in a psychic or worldly ghetto. If everyone is well, it's okay. Actually, I really do want that. And then it'll seep into your heart. May all be well, may all be well. And then you start saying, okay, I'm going to look for opportunities where I can say that prayer. So we all see, desperate people. We all see desperate situations. Now we're enlivening our heart. We're acquiring a heart of a master, a heart of a saint, just by empathetically, with true meaning. May all be well. I really wish good things for you to happen. And you don't want anything from it. You're not looking to get anything. It's like if you see a wounded animal, you just want it to be okay. You want it not to suffer. You don't want anything. As soon as it's healed, it jumps up and runs off. God bless it. Great. That's good. It's free. It's happy now. So you have to get that habit for human beings. You know, may all be well, may all be well, may all be well, may all be well. You know, may all prosper, may all prosper. So that by that constant repetition, it becomes part of your disposition. So don't you think now you're going to start to have a sunnier, healthier disposition as you become more and more altruistic? It's like a person who has a sense of joy who's smiling, as opposed to the people who are going bland face or grimacing. Now, who do you want to be with? The guy who's grimacing or the guy who's smiling? Who do you want to be around? You want to be around the person who's uplifting. So by this process of prayer, you're becoming an uplifting force in your community. Your nature is changing. You know, you have a general sense of goodwill. That's great. Who doesn't want to be around that? You know, as opposed to the Machiavellian friends that we have, who are always calculating and weighing and making judgments. Oh, how can I advance my position? Enough already. Enough. You know. So prayer in the beginning is a form of character development. That's really what it is. In the beginning, it's a form of character development. As you go further along, and as you purify your heart and your mind and your actions, you become first an unconscious vessel of sanctified energy to flow through you. And then later on, you become a conscious vessel of sanctified energy to pass through you. So that your life becomes a living blessing. Think about that. You know, what if your life process, your life being became a living blessing, regardless of what you're doing? You became a living blessing. Isn't that high evolution? Isn't that something special? See, that's why I tell people, for God's sakes, don't die a common human being. For God's sakes, don't die a common human being. What a wasted opportunity. What a squandered opportunity. When you're sitting on this bank of solar ability and the power and the ability to commune with the kingdom, and you die like a common, clod of earth. What a waste. Every saint is praying. Get a heads up. Even if you don't understand what the heck you're doing, copy them. Just copy them. Eventually the seed will set. It'll sprout roots. So you'll start to have that sense of well-being within you, and a sense of wanting all to have a well-being with the community. And then it becomes sort of fun. It sort of becomes sort of a divine entertainment. How can I help? What can I do? It's like a Santa. You're looking for opportunities to make someone smile. And then you say, okay. And then you have to expand your consciousness. Because you say, okay, before I was just thinking about earth and the human realm and people. But then, what if I expanded my prayers to be as full as possible? If the saints are doing these like universal prayer, 360 in every direction, and I've just been sort of focusing on humanity, well, that's good, but that's not what those saints are doing. They're like broadcasting tower everywhere. Everything is benefiting. So, I never thought about praying for the angels. That's interesting. Or praying for whatever the higher realities are. May there be true harmony there. And then, okay, let me analyze the human realm. It's not just the human realm. Let's think of the earth realm. Well, what's in the earth? So it's all of nature, all of the humans, all of the animals. So now you say, okay, I'm going to start to pray for the animals. And I'm going to pray for the mountains and the trees. And I'm going to pray for the sky. Before that, those are just like very abstract notions. Who's praying for the sky? Who's praying for the mountains? Well, the Native Americans were clever. They prayed for the mountains and they prayed for the rivers, and all the yogis have done that. But as Westerners, we don't think about that. We've never expanded our consciousness to think, well, let me pray for the mountains. Let me pray for the rivers. we never thought to extend our spiritual energy, our spiritual humanity to those. You know, if God created it, I think it's worth praying for. See? If God created it, probably some human being is kicking dirt into its face. So let's try to balance the scales and say, may that river be pure. May it flow eternally. You know, may that mountain be pure. May it be healed. May it be whole. Just, I mean, in the beginning, it's like a novel thought. But later on, it becomes a revelation in your being to see it as a living being, to see the mountain as a living being, to see the tree as a living being, to see the river as a living entity. So that our heart can just extend, you know, and to see the earth itself as a living being. So that we start to say, all this is God. All this is precious. All this is conscious. See? All this is conscious. See? Again, isn't that a revolution in our psyche? A revolution in our perception? When this starts to become a living experience, a living reality? See? And then you start to realize, what don't we pray for? So we're praying the higher kingdom, the higher heavens. May there be peace and joy, enlightenment. And we start to pray in the middle realm of the earth and all of its manifestations. May all be well, may all be well, may all prosper. You know. And then the lower realms, the realms of the suffering, the lower realms, and the spirits. May you have peace. May you be lifted from your sorrows. Aren't you expanding as a human being? Aren't you expanding as a consciousness? Where all of a sudden, 24/7, 360 degrees, you're saying prayers in every direction. Can you see? As you start to analyze, like, I never thought about praying if there's different heavens. How could I pray for that? Just the notion itself makes you have to think about things you never thought about. Just the notion itself. You have to. Is that possible? Well, prayer can't hurt. You know, if there are higher beings, if there are other realms, I pray for your peace. See? Now, this little being here is taking the power of the kingdom and the power of their soul and empowering another condition. Even a higher realm, you have the right to empower. You have that right. You have the ability. You have the power. The question is, did you ever think about it? And did you ever use it? See? You can't discriminate. You just say, what is there? And if it's there, and even if it's possibly there, I'm going to pray. I'm going to pray. So that what you can't see can become seen. That's why I said your insight increases also. Maybe as a human being, you didn't know whether there's higher heavens or lower realms. As a human being, you didn't know. You didn't have the tool of perception. You didn't have the tool of sensitivity. But as you purify yourself to prayer, and first it's like speculation. Well, maybe there's heavens, maybe there's not. Okay, let me see. Heavens, like different realms. Like we think as human beings, this is the only realm of existence. See? That's like when Galileo said, you know, the sun does not revolve around us. We revolve around the sun. So we think that this is the only realm, and this is it, and that all of God's creation revolves around this realm. Think about it. Think about it. I don't think so. You know, if God even simply made an infinite, a spectrum of light with many, many different vibrational gradations, do you think this is the only realm? Come on. Even with light itself, which is universal, has multiple, seen and unseen vibrations, spectrum. Is this the only spectrum that we're living in? Think about it. Does it make that much sense? Or are we the center of creation once again, as in Galileo's time? I don't think so. So there's spectrums above, spectrums below, and this is where we are. So by by saying prayers. Okay, you can even say this, a speculative prayer. God, if there are realms above, may they be well. That's okay. That's okay. God understands the intent of your heart. And as you purify your heart, and keep saying, may all be well above, may all be well here, may all be well below. Your insight, the subtlety of your mind, and the power of your mind increases until a point that you know directly, personally, whether there are realms below, whether there are realms above, and deeper, the nature of the realm that you persist and exist in right now. Your insight increases. See? If you listen to the masters, they say there are angels above. That means there are realms above. See, if Jesus said that to me, I tend to take his word. Or Buddha said there's realms above and realms below. And Sri Krishna said there are realms above and realms below. You know what? I'm good with that. I'll take their word because I'm just a little human being. And they're Mahatmas. They're manifestations of the kingdom. They're the living breath of the kingdom. I would tend to take their word. So that means we can pray. We can pray. And if we can pray, we can expand. If we acquire the habit of persistent prayer, we're acquiring the habit of persistent expansion, persistent empathy, persistent compassion, persistent and deeper insight. That's what's happening. Which means we are moving from a little egoic being to a solar being. Why? Because we're giving the nature of the soul greater and greater means of expression. If we're giving it greater and greater means of expression, we're giving it greater and greater means of expansion. See? So that solar expansion gets bigger, little ego gets smaller. Until the ego is made to dust and then sanctified and made into vibhuti, meaning sacred ash. See, so the Hindus, all the yogis were putting ash on us. You know what that means? It means we've burnt away all the materiality of the world. And that ash that we've burnt away is offered to God and sanctified. So it means even the dust becomes holy. See? Because it's been burnt away of all impurities. So the Agni, the fire, burns away all impurities. And we offer that sacred ash to God, and it's sanctified and it's blessed, and then we anoint our bodies with it. See? That's what all that ash means when Hindus are doing all this stuff. All the yogis, you'll see the yogis with ash on them all the time. Burning away the ego, purifying the ego. Nothing but, sanctified dust offered to God. So even the most basic element is offered. And from the most basic element, all the complexity of the universe has been created. From the most basic. See? He took the most basic thing and made this infinite complexity. See? So it means it's pure from the essence, pure from the beginning, pure from the alpha, pure to the omega. See, and the mala is the journey. See, so when you're holding this mala, this is your evolution. You began in sanctity and you'll end in sanctity, but you may have to make the journey of self-awareness. So it was unenlightened sanctity. You make the journey, and you come to enlightened sanctity. See. This is what you're doing when you're saying constant prayers. It's part of your evolutionary journey. Let's see what other notes that I put down. Oh yeah. Ultimately, this is a difficult notion, but ultimately, what we desire is for God's will to be done. Not my will, but thy will be done in and through me. Not my will, but thy will be done in and through me. So, in the beginning, that's a little bit tough. It sort of like sounds nice, but because we have very developed ego, we want to do things our will, our way. That's what we want. But through the process of prayer and persistent prayer, you start to enter that process of a divine spiritual adventure. It actually becomes fun. It's not like dry biscuits. It's joyful, profoundly interesting fun, and you feel happy. Your heart is your breast is filled with joy. And in that adventure, you start to realize that, hey, God's will is pretty good. God's will, God's way. Man is my will, my way. Like McDonald's. You want your sandwich just the way you want it. But in the path of yoga, and the path of developing your sanctity through prayer, you come to that desire of God's will, God's way. And you realize it's a joyous adventure. It's not a dry biscuits adventure. It's a joyous adventure. It's infinitely interesting to see all the forms of manifestations that God has created and how each of those manifestations was born in love. What a wonder. What a wonder to realize that, to have that as a visceral, personal, psychic experience. What a wonder. See? So we have to sort of get inside the lives of saints. Normally we're looking outside. He did some good, he suffered, then he died. That's how we look at saints. They did some good, they suffered, then they died. Oh my God. But we don't delve deeper into the wondrous, joyful, all loving, encompassing internal life that they had. The internal life that they had. And that we can participate in that wondrous, wondrous journey. Okay? Now, who can't pray? Isn't it a basically simple methodology? It's like saying, who can't breathe? Well, if you've got breath, you can pray. If you've got that prerequisite, no problem. You can pray. And if you can pray, you can enter this unimaginably wondrous journey, adventure. And I use the word advisedly. It is an adventure, because as your psyche deepens, and as you actually have the experience of God's energy flushing through you, and the nature of that energy, and flying out to whomever is in need, it's wondrous. It's wondrous. You go, wow, look what God's doing. And thank God he used me. So now you're a participant in the actions of God, as opposed to sort of an unenlightened clod stumbling through the world. You become a participant in the very act of creation, in the very act of sanctity manifesting and influencing in the world. You become part of the play, But now you're part of the play as a part of one of the devas, meaning one of the beings of light, as opposed to one of the asuras, which means chaos makers. You're on the part of the harmony as a part of the discord. The humans, not bad, but a lot of discord. Up and down all the time. No harmony. But you become part of the force that makes the higher things possible. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. At that point, you're like Arjuna, following Sri Krishna. And you become one of the forces of good, one of the forces of light in the world. But you become a conscious force of light in the world. See? Not sort of stumbling, sometimes so good, sometimes not so good, sometimes you don't even care. No, you're awake. You're awake. When Arjuna's forces are standing on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, who was dozing? No one was dozing. The entire army was alert. They were ready for battle, ready to take action for the will of God. Vital, alive, energetic, joyful. They were enjoying, let's go. Let's create harmony. Let's make this world peaceful. Okay? there was no leaning back, only leaning forward. Only a glorious light from those souls that were on that battlefield. Glorious light. They were reestablishing Dharma in the world. Putting down the forces of Dhyodhana, who were selfish, clinging, discordant. Those great souls came from Arjuna's forces as guided by Sri Krishna, the God itself manifest, to bring harmony and Dharma back into the world. Their action was a living prayer. See? So that when you do something that's based in empathy and compassion, that action becomes a living prayer, a prayer in form. See? A prayer in form. So prayer is not only just quiet saying. No. Prayer is also a living physical action, because the ego is removed, and just the physical, visceral, only for the best, is manifesting through your physical form. See? So it can come through your physical form, and it also can come psychically. Both are vital. Both are alive. Both are empowered by the Spirit. See? So, can you see when you take the path of prayer, yogic prayer, as expressed in the inner life of the saints, how you become a joyous, revolutionary being? See? A joyous, revolutionary being. You're not just a common nutshell human being. All of a sudden, the energy of the kingdom is flushing through you. You're a gateway for the actions of the soul to manifest in the world. And you've used this humble practice of prayer to make it happen, to trigger it, to give it a stable access to the world. Heaven wants to manifest here, but it needs to. We are the agents to have it happen. Either we're asleep, or we're becoming awake, or we're awake. See? So those are the three gunas again. And by consciously working on prayer, may all be well, may all be well, may all prosper, may all, and then expanding the nature of prayer, pray for the earth, pray for the animals, pray for the air, pray for the human beings, pray for the heavens, pray for the lower regions. Expansion, 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 expansion. Now, when you start to examine your psychic content, as we were before, in that emptying the tub, all the forms of unkindness that we've consciously or unconsciously exercised. So that was when we're just common human beings. We say, oh my God, look at all the mischief I've done. Knowingly or unknowingly, I did a lot of mischief. Now, as your life process becomes engaged with prayer, which means engaged with giving expression to the light and energy of the soul, the light and energy of the kingdom. Now when you do a self-examination, can you see how greater and greater and greater the treasury of kindness you manifest in the world, as opposed to your unconscious blemishes that you were doing? See? And that all of a sudden the scales start to change between all of these sins of omission and sins of commission. All of a sudden the scale, the weight changes to all of these acts of beauty, all of these acts of kindness that you've generated on all the different levels of your expression, your physical expression, your emotional expression, your psychic expression. Can you imagine the treasury that you're building up within inside of you? Now can you understand that treasury that you're building up has a quality, has a nature, and that it radiates through your psyche? Do you understand the psychic treasury that you start to live in? When you stop singing me, 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 me. See? And you've started to engage the energy of the soul and the energy of the kingdom. That treasury that you've developed, it's a visceral living experience. Why are the saints happy? Why are the saints joyous? Why are the saints one-pointed? because they know where the greatest treasury is, and they align themselves with that energy, and they become part of it. See? That is possible. That is possible. It's a question of what you dedicate yourself to. What you dedicate yourself to. See, nobody has to know that you're on this grand adventure, but you'll know. You don't have to pray in public for everyone to see. Not necessary. That's vain. That's an arrogance. See? You're getting your reward right on the spot. Oh, they saw me. They think I'm so great. You just got your reward right there. Your petty, small ego has received its reward. But if you go to prayer as the way the saints practice it, their reward is the infinite, eternal bliss. The stable reality becomes their reward, not the up and down whims of man. See? The saints become stable lovers of God, stable knowers of God, stable experiencers of God. See? Their heart is open. It's like the bloom that opens and stays open. See? It'll just receive the light of God and the experience of God. See? And their expression is always the kindness of God, the love of God. See? That's what the saints are. That's what you are when you wake up. When you wake up. And how do you wake up? These practices. These are the practices that make you awake and stable. See? As opposed to the up and down human being. The very forgetful human being. The very self-centered human being. See? See? If God was so self-centered, where would we be? Not even the dust we'd be. So we have to take on the nature. That's why I said in the beginning, this is all character development. And then you become a pure, sanctified being. You come into the state of self-knowing. Before it's, in the beginning, it's development of your sanctified character. And then all of a sudden you realize, whoa, that is really who I am. That's not just what I'm developing. That's who I actually am. See, that revelation comes. That process led you to yourself, led you to your stable, divine, persistent, unmolested self, pure, Sat Chidananda. So you can understand why saints from every religion, every culture, every region pray. You can understand now. Because it gets them to the goal of evolution. It gets them to the goal of creation. To become a full expression, a full aware expression of the nature of God. Like, what is God? For human beings, what is God is a mystery. For a saint, what is God is a known. See? So we go from the unknowing to the known. See? Just like, why does science probe? Because they want to go from the unknown to the known. But the highest expression of that is from unknowing to knowing God. Meaning the essence, that which is essential, that which is the origin of existence itself. See? From whence we've come. That's God. But we have to know what it is. To have the full embrace. See? Not the speculation. The full embrace, to become a knower, to become one like it. So the yogis will often say, it's like the drop of water entering into the ocean. So as souls, the soul energy is the same as the kingdom energy, but we're in a finite form, a drop. But the process, these sacred processes, takes the drop, the solar expression of you, and drops it into the cosmic ocean of reality. See? So we have the full expanse, the full power, the full glory of the kingdom. So, okay, so this is what you're learning when you enter this practice of prayer. But we have to be very simple, very mechanic. So we all go out and we buy 109 beads and They can be, just make them as entertaining, as pretty, and as interesting as you want, you know. And then just start that process of first orally, may all be well, may all be well, may all be well, and thinking about it, mull over it during the day. What does that mean? And then once you've done that, 40 days or so, then you don't have to do it out loud, because now you've heard yourself and you've had time to think about it. Then just think, may all be well. Just start in your heart and mind. What does it mean? And if I say may all be well and I mean it, well, how would I express that in my actions? How would I express that in my feelings? And how would I express that in my intellectual life? May all be well. What can I do? See, it always has to have a philosophy, a psychology, and an action. See, it's a point of view, and then an understanding of the point of view, how that works psychologically, and then there should be an action in the world. See, then we're fulfilling all of our facilities. We're becoming truly sensitive, truly aware, and truly taking advantage of our divine endowment. We've been given a lot, but we use very little. But we've been given a lot. You have the same right of divine experience as any saint on the planet. You have the same right. You simply haven't exercised the same habits or the same science. So if you exercise those sciences, you'll have the same insight. You'll have the same revelations. Let's see. In the some of the things that we have to understand as being humans, we all have various forms of suffering, whether it's physical, emotional, mental sufferings. We all have that. We all have headache people in our lives. We all have oppositional forces in our life. Every one of us. We experience oppositional forces in our lives. And sometimes we feel bad about that, like, Jesus Christ, why am I having these headaches? Why is this guy giving me so much misery? And we'll start to feel a little low, a little negative. But we have to sort of understand that the oppositional forces are natural to this realm. There's always opposition in this realm. So, did Jesus have opposition? I think so. Gautama Buddha, did he have opposition in this realm? Absolutely. Were there forces arrayed against Sri Krishna and his great disciple Arjuna? Absolutely. So if they have oppositional forces and they're the grand wonder, you're going to have oppositional forces. That's part of it. So one, we have to accept opposition exists. If you're born, you're going to have headaches. That's part of the deal. But we all have a divine treasury within us to pass through the opposition and not become like it. We don't have to take on the ugly face of negativity. We can use the power of prayer. Whatever the oppositional or discordant force that exists within your life, it's one way or the other, it's unenlightened sorrow that's being expressed. So the bad boss, or the angry neighbor, or the ignorant criminal, it's unenlightened sorrow. That's what's manifesting, and you happen to be present. So, when they're spitting, it's flowing your way. when they're spitting their venom, and you happen to be present, you're the unfortunate recipient of that negative oppositional force. We can get angry and slowly degrade ourselves. All forms of anger or different gradations of entering into madness. Just get that in your head. The more angry you are, the more mad you are, meaning mind unstable. how do we try to maintain some kind of a purity, some kind of stability, some kind of sanctity? You know, you have to say, okay, this person who is acting like a viper is sick, is mentally ill. Just realize that they are mentally ill. So me as a solar being who's trying to hold on to my spiritual reality as opposed to my personality reality. My personality may be insulted and be deflated. But as a spiritual being, I have to realize this person is sick. And then we just persistently pray, you know, may you be well, may you be well, may you be healed, may you be healed. And that just becomes your disposition, you know. And you can be a little annoyed, say, this person is a foul mud pit. You can use some adjectives, but through prayer, we don't want them to always be a foul, stagnant mud pit. You know, we don't want them to be a filthy swamp. Not denigrating swamps because they have a good nature, but some of the odors of the swamp are not that pleasant. So we can just say, may they be healed, may they be healed, may they be healed. And then we just get on with our life. Get on with our life. See? But at least we don't start to slip into their mud pit, see, by anger. See? You know, we have to have our own trajectory. And these oppositional forces want you to become like them. Angry, negative, dark, discordant. See? You have to fight those forces that want you to lower your vibration. You fight those forces by persistent prayer. And if you find yourself sinking, pray for yourself. You know, God, I am angry. God, I'm hurt. God, I'm insulted. God, help me out. God, show me a way. God, get me out of here. You know, God, let me find a way of peace. Let me find a way of service. Let my heart be immune to this negativity. Pray for yourself. It's okay, you know, because you're praying for yourself so that you can be of greater service. See, so that you don't get pulled down into negativity. So that you can maintain your spiritual integrity. Every oppositional force wants to breach your spiritual integrity. See? It wants to see how for real you are with your sanctity. So your sanctity becomes challenged. See? You have to realize it's a test. It's a test. Will it be able to drag you down? Will it be able to breach your sanctity? Or will you just fight, as the forces of Krishna went to the battlefield and fought? People say, oh, spirituality, fighting is not real. Oh, no. You fight for your sanctity. You fight for your sanctity. You don't blissfully kumbaya come to your sanctity. I'm sorry. That's not the truth. That's not the truth. You fight for your sanctity. You fight for it. Every day you fight for it. Because there's forces that want to drag you into the common mud. You know, the unpleasantness. The discordant existence. See? But you fight to, you know, there is a God. That God is in my heart. That God is in the kingdom. That God is all places. See? You hold on to that. Hold on to that. Hold on to that. And if you're angry, just say the prayer, say the prayer, say the prayer, say the prayer, say the prayer. Until you're calm. Until you're calm. See? And pray for more strength, more insight, more stability. So that you can heal the world. Heal yourself. Be stable and pure in the world. See? All the saints had great opposition. Great opposition. What made them a saint was they held on to their practices until it became, one, a stable force, and two, a greater force than the negativity. See? Their spirituality became stable and greater than the opposition. You gotta fight. You gotta fight. A lot of times in India, you'll see different images of God. Some of them will have a scythe, and some of them will have a sword out. That sword is no joke. That sword means we're ready to fight. See? One meaning is it's discrimination, to see what is true. The other meaning is it's prepared to fight to maintain its sanctity. See? So you have to be a spiritual warrior. You know, you have no enemies, but you do recognize oppositional forces, discordant forces. You have no enemy. See, that's one part of your psychology. But you do realize that there are discordant forces that have to be put down, see, or gone through, see, or bared. Sometimes you can't defeat it, but you can fight it to a stalemate so that you don't denigrate yourself. See, you just hold on to your own spirituality, your own prayers. So regardless, come what may, whatever bondage or privity comes onto my body, I'll bear it and I'll pray. See, Jesus suffered. Did he have the power not to suffer and get beyond the cross? Absolutely. But he allowed himself to suffer while maintaining his sanctity. That's one of the great lessons of the last days of Jesus. And that's why they call him the Lamb of God. He maintained his suffering during immense privation. He maintained his sanctity, and he allowed himself to suffer emotionally, physically, mentally. But the sanctity, even in his suffering, he was praying for the welfare of others, seeking the liberation of others. See, to his side was another fellow being crucified. And in Jesus' mercy, you'll be with me in the kingdom. See? He's always expressing this constant mercy, this constant prayer of well-being while in this great crisis. See? It's a great lesson for us. It's a great lesson. Jesus is a great yogi, a great master, applying these sacred practices. And in this case, this is called Leela Avatar, when God is doing a great drama so that humans can learn, under every condition, under every privation, every suffering, maintain your sacred humanity. Maintain your nature of prayer, your nature of goodwill towards all. See? Even in the last breath, he's lifting humanity. See? So this is our destiny. This is our life. But we have to reach that high spiritual heights that Master Jesus demonstrated. We have to enter those practices. So one of the great sacred practices, one of the great sacred processes is the process of prayer. It gave him the ability to hold on to his solar reality, to his spiritual identity, regardless of what the mind of man could put upon him. See? That's our destiny. That's who we are. That's what we are. But we have to have the strength to hold on. See? Nature is a type of chaos, always tumbling along, pulling you down, throwing you up, pulling you down. They maintained a stability of sanctity. The practice of prayer gives us the ability of persistent remembrance of the reality of God, and persistent purpose in nature. See, persistent remembrance and persistent purpose. So we're always remembering God and God's nature, and always fulfilling the purpose of God within his nature. Understand? So, are there any thoughts or questions, ideas that we had? This is only the beginning talk of prayer. It's a big subject. Big subject. But now we've broken away some of the crusty notions of prayer and realized that this is a revolutionary consciousness expanding process. See? A process to liberate our sanctity, see? To defeat the forces of egos, and to elevate the forces of the soul. See? That's why I say this is a grand adventure, a grand adventure. See? It's a venture into your sanctity, into your real self, not your temporal self, your real self.